Hey, peace and love to y'all. Welcome to Dagger Squad. Welcome to the Brother Goffey podcast. And this is part two of a crash course in ancient Greek for Egyptomaniacs, episode number 2. I'm going to do a little quick flashback, a summary, and then of last week, and then we're going to get it in. So check this out. Check this part out.
Comes from melanchris, melanchros, melanchris, and melaschros. So what I wanted to show people is the word hasn't changed in Greek. It actually means the same thing. It means today dark skin, someone who has dark features or black hair, or dark skin. So the word itself in my modern Greek means exactly what it did 2,000 years ago. So I really wanted to show people because there would be people that are saying, well, I'm not speaking the language of the ancients, but yes, we do. Sometimes you would see the word melanchros changing from melanos, melanis, and it's because in Greek the word can change for gender, masculine, feminine, neutral, whether you're talking about many people, not just one person, plural, and so on. So what I wanted to show you is that the word itself, unlike in English, can grow and kind of mean a lot different kind of meanings. And something else I wanted to show is this particular one, melanteros and melantatos, which I don't have here. I don't know why. What I want to show that the Greek word itself, why it would be better to use the word dark instead of black for the English language is because when we think of melas, which means dark, we could also say melanteros, which means darker, or melantatos, darkest. Now, if we were to try to do this with the word black, blacker, black's absolute. How can you get blacker than black?
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling me, Garfield?
Makes sense.
It's a very poor translation. It's not a wrong translation. It's a poor translation because it is not consistent at all if we use the term black. But the word dark or swarthy or some other words I can think, they are fairly consistent with this particular way that I'm kind of showing everyone. And I'm just showing you other words, how they work: big, bigger, megas to megistos, philos, philetoros, philatotos, and so on. So anything you want to say regards to darker and darker? Do you understand what I mean when I say black? You can't get black, blacker than black. Black is an absolute.
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense.
I am. Okay, I hope I am, Garfield. And the other thing is, Garfield, is I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, anything you want to say before I go to the next one, Garfield?
No, I'm good. I'm good right now.
All right. So I've showed you how it can be used in Greek. And
hold on one second. I got one question.
Absolutely.
Top where you have darker. So how would you pronounce the word dark here at the top?
Explain that to me, sorry, Garfield.
The word at the top that you're saying is dark, darker, and darkest. How would you pronounce those words?
In Greek, is that what you're saying?
In English.
So in English, you would pronounce them as they're written, Garfield: dark, darker, and darkest.
Right, but in Greek, it would be what?
So in Greek, it would be the same word in Greek to use melas, and to be darker than, as the darker, to say that someone is dark. So I could say that I am melanos and you're melanteros. Garfield, does that make sense?
Right. So you're dark and I'm darker.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, so that would melas. Okay, all right. I'm just trying to get the words right in the Greek. All right, I understand.
And someone in southern India can be melantotos, darker than both of us. That makes sense, Garfield. But the thing is, Garfield, that today we have this understanding, black and white. It's a very Americanized thing. So we've segregated society into two colors. So what do we mean when we mean by white and black today? Because we have this conception that when we say white and black, it's just two people. There's two kinds of people. There's just whites and blacks. So I don't consider myself white.
John, if you're walking in New York we would think you're probably from Puerto Rico.
Sorry, from here?
We would think you're from Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. So we wouldn't say that you're from Greek.
Interesting.
Look, if we're going by location,
Yeah,
we
right.
say, who's this Puerto Rican guy? So
I like that.
that's based on location. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we have white and black, it kind of puts, there's no middle ground, there's nothing. So
Yeah,
terms like swarthy and dark helps us out to understand.
because there's a complexion. Yeah, absolutely, mate. You're understanding. There's a hue in the word. There's a how would I call it? A spectrum in the word that black is not able to reach at all, because black is absolute. But we can use it. For example, my wife, she's from New Zealand. She's a Maori, Polynesian Maori from New Zealand. And I might say something to my wife, and she goes, "Is it because I'm black?" And my wife is whiter than me. So you can understand how people use the word today. We use it very subjectively. So we should really take away our goggles from the way we use words today, because in ancient times we don't have these particular notions that are kind of in our society today. So we kind of really need to look at the world in the context of Herodotus, in that world, not in our today and age, and we'll have a better understanding. But I think you've got a better understanding in regards to how we're going ahead with Melancros and how it can be used, and why dark is better than black and so on. But yeah, I'll keep going anyways, Garfield.
All right, go ahead, my brother.
Bugger. Okay, sorry, not Garfield. So I kind of wanted to show the word darkest and darker and darkest, and that was the particular one down the bottom that I want to show everyone. Okay, so all right, so interestingly enough now, Garfield, this is going to be very interesting. Now, the word melas is right down the bottom, the last line. And in this particular dictionary, I have gone back to see where this mel root comes. Where does this mel root arise? And when we come back, we get right on top of the screen to that root word mel, which gives rise to all these melancholies and melampholas and melanas and melancholias and melas and so on. It is this particular word mel which gives rise to all these words as the prefix which is in melas. And this is the word that we want to go look at. So we're going to go have a look at this word mel. And I also want to show how melas can be used as feminine, as melis and melee and whatever. And that the word melis in its plural form, as we look in its etymology, as we can say melas or melis, it's not on this page. Here we go. So meli, at the top in our etymology, we're at mel. We can see the mel in the brackets, it has the I, or you could put the as for melas, depending on how you want to use this word. It's up to you. If you want to make it in its substantive form, male, melas, or you can use it in its melis form. And when we look at its melis form, it gives us these related words for honey. And when we look at the word for honey in Greek, it's meli. So the word melas has a root word, a prefix which is mel, and the word melis, which is also a word used for honey, it also comes with this prefix mel, which is very telling. Because melis means honey in Greek. Today in Greece, we have a company, it's called Melas Bee Factory, and they do honey. Not only honey can be different types of colors, it's a darkness to it, but it can get so dark that you can't really see through it. That's how dark it can get, or it can get light dark. But what I'm getting at here, Garfield, is that it would be even better to say that the Egyptians were honey-skinned. And the reason why I say that is because of this. If we say the word melas, if we say that melanchro, the word melanos, melanchros comes from melas, it's dark, not a problem. But it's also likely that the word is rooted in melis. And if it's melis, it's honey-skinned. But don't get confused, because both these words have a common root, which comes from mel, which is telling of the characteristic of honey and how we view the word melanchros in regards to color as well. It is that hue. So to say that someone is honey skin would be perfect to say that is melanchros. Because melanchros is really that dark, sun-drenched tan skin, sun-kissed skin. It is that darkness that it's weather-beaten that can get dark and dark and darker. Just wanted to show people honeys in the ancient world. And when we look at honey processed in Egypt, we can see that the same color of honey is also likely the same color that the Egyptians used for themselves. You can see the same hue. You can see the same color and there's many more. And the Egyptians themselves varied in so many different colors, from dark to darker to very darkest. To say that these people are just black would be saying that these people are just one absolute color. But when we look at this word and we change melanchros to mean honey skin, well, with this, we understand there's a better context in understanding these people's color by viewing the different types of honey hewing in honey and so on. So
let me give you a little pushback a little bit.
Yeah.
So, would you be melanchros and can I be melanchros at the same time?
So would you consider us to be both dark, Garfield?
I would say I'm dark. You're a bit lighter than I am, but you'd be darker than how the Greeks look.
All right. That's a very interesting pushback. So let me go ahead and give you my answer now, Garfield. So this particular photo over here, Garfield, that just to get people to understand, the difference between black and tan. This is not a different foot. This is the same person. This is the photo of the hand and foot of the same Greek fisherman that lives in Crete, in the Mediterranean. He's a fisherman, and he wears boots all day in the sea. And his feet are white and withered and kind of in the water. Whereas his hand is, I would look at his hand right now, Garfield, and I would say, his hand is dark. Am I wrong? I've just used this word for a Greek now. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
But so look, just for that pushback, I hope that answered the question. Or would you like me to kind of
Well, you just beat me up. You just daggered me right there.
I'll go ahead and keep throwing those daggers then, Garfield.
All right. Before I move on, so that's like a summary of last week or what went on. And to my brother, no diplomacy. First of all, you don't speak Greek. You don't understand ancient Greek. I don't understand ancient Greek. This is someone who actually knows the language. From a Greek perspective, the word melanchros is rooted in the word melat or melis. And the root of mel means honey. Not the Egyptians talking the Greek. This is from the Greek language, not from us. So stop being sensitive and pay attention. Let me bring it back right here again. If you look at the top, you see melas. The root is meli. Melas. Melas. One who produces or sells honey. Honey is the root. The root word of melas is meli, which means honey. So that's what he was referring to. When you look at the term honey, you can now look at hold on 1 second. You could see different type of what you would call, hold on 1 second. Hold on there.
As we can say, melas or melis. It's not on this page. Here we go. So meli.
Let me stop. The Greek historians never call them black, my brother. It's the same word we're talking about. It's called melanchros. So the root of the word is melas or melis. Meli is the root of melas. Meli means honey. So we're talking about etymology. The word melanchros means dark complexion, dark. It don't means black. So that's why when it says honey, honey can be any type of color, but it's still darker than the average European. So that's what we're focused on. Let's take a look at this again.
At the top in our etymology, we're at mel. We can see the mel in the brackets. It has the I, or you could put the as for melas, depending on how you want to use this word. It's up to you. If you want to make it in its substantive form, male, melas, or you can use it in its melis form. And when we look at its melis form, it gives us these related words for honey. And when we look at the word for honey in Greek, it's mel, meli, meli. So the word melas has a root word, a prefix which is mel, and the word melis, which is also a word used for honey, it also comes to this prefix mel, which is very telling. Which is very telling because melis means honey in Greek. Today in Greece, we have a company, it's called Melas Bee Factory, and they do honey. Not only honey can be different types of colors, it's a darkness to it, but it can get so dark that you can't really see through it. That's how dark it can get, or you can get light dark. But what I'm getting at here, Garfield, is that it would be even better to say that the Egyptians were honey-skinned. And the reason why I say that is because of this. If we say the word melas, if we say that melanchro, the word melanos, melanchros comes from melas, it's dark, not a problem. But it's also likely that the word is rooted in melis. And if it's melis, it's honey-skinned. But don't get confused, because both these words have a common root, which comes from mel, which is telling of the characteristic of honey and how we view the word melanchros in regards to color as well. It is that hue. So to say that someone is honey skinned would be perfect to say that is melanchros. Because melanchros is really that dark, sun-drenched, tan skin, sun-kissed skin. It is that darkness that it's weather-beaten that can get dark and dark and darker. Just wanted to show people honeys in the ancient world. And when we look at honey.
All right, so let me move on and get to here we go. Mianos Marcellinus.
Jeez.
Yeah, I got a bunch of quotes, man. I'm ready for you today. I'm ready. Yeah, I got this one.
You got a long list for me, but yeah, I'm ready to do it. You wanted me to go back to a particular word, Garfield.
Right. No, you don't have to do it now. You could do it later on. But if you want to do it now, it's not I don't think it's on the screen. I think it's the.
Okay. Maybe we should just go ahead and go from where we were.
Right.
See that? Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good. And as a matter of fact, I got a recording. I'm gonna go back to it when it's over.
You can do your thing, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting enough. Yeah, I have all these sources that I've grown up listening to. So here we go. Let's examine the ancient Greek source. Let's see what you got.
Okay. So let's go ahead and examine the sources. Now I've noticed, because I've actually taken these videos from particular videos that you've told me to watch, and I've taken what they've presented, and I've just copied and pasted how they've pasted it, and yeah, so it looks very, very deceiving. First of all, And I've noticed that sometimes they don't like the later authors, Garfield. I've noticed that, oh no, well those are like late Roman authors. We can't use them. But some of the authors that they do use are late authors. So they've got like double standards, I've noticed. Have you noticed that, Garfield?
Yes.
So that's a problem. So so we can go ahead and present what they're actually saying, and we'll go from there. So this particular writer, Lucian, was 125 to 190 AD, and he writes. Let's actually go and see what the actual book is. So it's talking about a black African. What would you say? We have three things that we can look at. We have protruding lips, which is brochylos, and we have spindle shanks. That's a
Hold on 1 second, fam.
Arimantus had the beauties of Athens at his beck, nice gentlemanly boys with good Greek on their tongues, and the mark of the gymnasium on every muscle. A man may languish under their rigorous and with some credit. As for this fellow, to say nothing of his dark skin, this is the word melancro. People have used black as well, black skin, of his dark skin, but we're going to say nothing of his melanchro and protruding lips and spindle shanks, his words coming out, tumbling in a heap, one of them top of another. It was Greek, of course, but the voice, the accent were Egyptian born, and his hair, no free man ever had his hair tied up in a knot behind like that. So, this passage right here, do you think at this present moment that it's talking about a black African? What would you say? We have three things that we can look at. We have protruding lips, which is brochylos, and we have spindle shanks. That's a very strange word. But yeah, it means skinny legs. But
Right.
and we've got melancro there. So we're talking about someone who's dark, who's honey skinned, who's got pronounced lips, who's got spindle shanks, and this is the Greek. Interesting enough, it says in the same quote that the accent was Egyptian born. Now that's the word for Aegyptos, for Egypt. Aegypti would be the person himself. But if anyone can find the word Aegyptos, Aegypti, in that Greek right now, me and Garfield will give them $100, because there's nowhere in the actual Greek itself from Lucian, he doesn't say that he was an Egyptian born.
So you're saying that the term Egyptian
Plinius doesn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the primary source of the Greek actually doesn't say Egyptian born.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and just to let you know, on this particular thing, where if you notice, Egyptian is in a brackets. Can you see that?
Yeah, describing a young Egyptian. Yeah.
That's in a brackets. That means, hey, there's some technical stuff happening there. So look, it's not in a passage, but if you look at the fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first word Kai. Can we see where I am? Ke, syneches, sort of. You know where you
Right. I see where you are. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The fifth line. Mm-hmm.
2, 3, 4. From the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up.
Right.
Okay. Και συνέχες και επιτρόχων Ελληνιστή. He was an Hellenisty. What's an Hellenisty? What's a Hellenist, Garfield?
A Greek.
A Hellene would be a Greek. A Hellenist, not necessarily. A Hellenist could be someone that is speaking Greek, that is taken on Greek culture. He is someone who's been Hellenized. He's Greek in Greek culture. He's someone that is taking Greek culture. And
I'm puzzled right now.
Right. Yeah.
Because we could get the original primary and have it even Google translated. I'm saying, so when did this start saying that?
Right. So later in the text, Garfield, some other interlocutor, some other dialogue that says, "Hey, his hair. It looks like they do that in Egypt." So at another dialogue, it says that he was. But what this person has done, he has put extra technicality because he doesn't know how to translate this word Hellenist. He's saying, "Oh well, this guy's we know that he's an Egyptian born, so they use it in this particular passage." Because they haven't he decided not to translate it as a Hellenist because he thought, who's gonna know what a Hellenist is or an Hellenist is? So he's kind of used technical terms. We spoke about that before. Some people put extra technical terms, and that's what they've done here in this particular passage. And that's a passage over, but that is a sign of noble birth. This is Timaeus on another particular passage after the one that we had just read, noble birth of Egypt. So this is where it gets interesting now, Garfield. I have found another translation. In this translation, it actually has the word black skin in it as well to make it a little bit more challenging as well. And I'm going to read the same particular passage in this verse, and we're going to have a look at the Greek. So right now, I need you to go back to the interlocutor Lucian, which is the second paragraph.
Okay.
Right. We're going to go to the middle of that passage where it says, "Now the lad you speak of." Can you see where I am?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's go. Now the lad you speak of, besides his melanchros and his protruding lips. The word protruding is the word brocculus, pronounced lips, and his skinny legs. And there was something thick and slovenly, something about his accent, his voluble speech. He did talk Greek, but the sound of it and the tone of his voice showed his nationality. So this is not saying it's because he's black. This is not saying because he's melanchthone and he's got skinny legs and pronounced lips, brochylos. They're not saying that that's what's given away his nationhood, where he's from. No, what he's saying is that he did talk Greek, but the tone of his voice showed his nationality. In the Greek, totis phoni tono, the phonis tono, third line. His tone of his speech showed from this patron. He showed where he was from. So that's what gave it away. His speech, because the Egyptians spoke Greek. Strange, very strange. They had a funny accent, if I would say. I'm sure you would understand. I went to Greece. And sorry.
Yeah, at the bottom it says somebody else is speaking now. His hair, Lucian, is a sign of Egyptian high rank. All were born youths have it twisted up till their manhood begins. It is just the opposite of our ancestors' fashion. So this is 2nd century of the Common Era.
You're right.
And he's saying that the Egyptians
at that time had the youths had. Have you heard of that? It's I'm not sure how much familiar you are with Egyptian history. They had a side lock. You know about the side lock?
Right.
So Egyptians actually, kids practiced this particular thing. It was a I'm not sure if it was a priestly thing by memory. It was something that they did in honor of Osiris, and they would do this particular thing as a youth. The Egyptians did that. I can show you pictures from the
Right. I know what you're talking about. We currently have an adult in our community that wears a side lock. So
very interesting. Okay.
Well, he used to wear it anymore, but he used to.
But what I'm getting at here, Lucian, what gives it away from Lucian that he's from Egypt is the tone of his speech, his accent. That's what showed his nationality. It wasn't that he was how we would think, he's black. The word's not even black, it's melancholy. So we don't even get a good description. All we know is that he's melanchros. We spoke about melanchros, didn't we, Garfield? And we said that it's some type of dark, honey skin color. So far we're not getting any understanding that's a black African. And he's got pronounced lips, and he's got skinny legs. Egyptians were known to have quite skinny legs. Some Arabs still have, and then in Semites and Levantines, that type of culture down in that area still today, they have more pronounced lips than, say, the Western perspective coming from somewhere else. Absolutely. So in this voice here, I am not getting anything that's telling me that this person is African. And maybe he is African. It doesn't mean anything that he just tells us here that he's from his pronounced lips, he's got skinny legs, and he's melancholy skin. So he could be, he could not be. We don't have much information. Anything that we'll be putting on top of this passage will be mere speculation. Absolute mere speculation.
So it's possible he could be an Egyptian.
He possibly could be an Egyptian, absolutely.
Right, which would make him, of course, African. But
if we talk about that he's a native Egyptian, we are talking about that he is a person of that native Egypt area. That Egypt is a place where, okay, are the people in New York, Garfield, are they black or white?
Good question. They could be anything.
Right. So when we look at Egypt, especially at that time, don't think Egypt was this
multicultural, pluralistic society.
Absolutely, and it's been like that for longer than before the Greeks were there. And yeah, okay. And the Greeks were there twice. They were there in the 3rd century, but they came a millennium before then with a bunch of sea people, which we're probably talking on a lot of time. They made their presence in Egypt like 2nd, 1st millennium. But so there was an influx of Greeks and Egyptians, culturally, trade, influencing each other. No one kind of borrowed and stole from each other. There was this, both cultures were absorbing each other at that time. And these are the cultures that sprung up. And Egypt has been probably, I would say, maybe the first multicultural area in the world. I would like to say that. But right here, we're just saying someone who's melanchros, someone who's got pronounced lips, he's skinny, he's got a spindle shank. There's actually 2nd century AD portraits of mummies with little boys with side locks, and these boys are actually white in color. And if this is true indeed, well, they're not white. You could say they're melanchros to some extent, but in the same passage here, we've got the side lock, but I could show a side lock by many kids. So is this something, a practice that everyone took on, or was it specific to Egyptian people? I would say that it would probably be varied. Some people took on that Egyptian culture. some other people still existed with the people of Egypt at that time as well. Yeah, but in this particular passage, I don't know if you want to push anything, but that's what I'm understanding from the Greek, that it was his accent, that Alexandrian or Egyptian accent, that was that, which showed his nationality to Lucian, into that interlocutor. But the other interlocutor says, well, no, he knows. He's saying that, hey, no, he's got his head twisted in this way. The Egyptians do that. That's why I know he's from there. So he's telling the other guy that this is why he would be from here anyways. But yeah, this is interesting passage. This is a very interesting passage, and that's my take on it, coming from looking at the Greek.
All right, and point to be made that this is 2nd century of the Common Era. It's a totally different time period than the ancient time period.
That's
right. On to the next one.
All right, now this is Herodotus. Okay, now, all right, so this is the passage in Herodotus, and I want to say this this blew my mind because I couldn't find anything here. So I really want you to push me on this, Garfield. I want you to play devil's advocate with me. All right, so for the fact is, as I first come to realize myself, and then heard from others later, that the Colchians are obviously Egyptian. Number one, Garfield, he's saying that the Colchians are Egyptian. He's not saying that the Ethiopians are Egyptian. So first of all, straight off the bat, we need to understand who are the Colchians. That's number one. In the area of the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, have we ever found sub-Saharan African culture there? I don't. Yeah. Well, let's just keep on going. So far we're just getting. So he's telling us that the Colchians and the Egyptians, there's a kin between them. Ethiopia there's not even mentioned here so far. As we're reading, when the notion occurred to me, I asked both the Colchians and the Egyptians about it, and found that the Colchians had better recall of the Egyptians than the Egyptians did of them. Some Egyptians said that they thought the Colchians originated with Sesostris' army, but I myself had guessed their Egyptian origin not only because the Colchians are dark-skinned and curly-haired. So far we're still getting the Colchians and the Egyptians saying that these people are dark, similar melancholic colored people, if that makes sense. This is all we get. And then he goes further to say, which does not account for much by itself, because these features are common to others. So he's disregarding that either way. He's disregarding color. Okay. But he says, more importantly, the Colchians and Egyptians and Ethiopians are the only people in the world who practice circumcision. Now he's just jumping into circumcision. He's not talking about color, and he's just saying about the Egyptians and the Ethiopians. These people practice circumcision. Now he's going on to kind of go ahead and scrutinize this particular thing. And he goes on to say, in the middle of the passage, the Phoenicians and the Syrians of Palestine acknowledge of themselves that they learned the custom from the Egyptians and the Syrians of the valleys of Thermodon and Parthenius, as well as their neighbors of Macronus. Say that they learned it lately from the Colchians. These are the only nations that circumcise, and it's saying that they do even as the Egyptians. But as to the Egyptians and the Ethiopians themselves, I cannot say which nation learned it from another. So he doesn't know was it the Egyptians or was it the Ethiopians. I cannot say which nation learned it from another, for it manifestly a very ancient custom. It's very ancient. He doesn't know where it even came from. That the others learned it from intercourse with Egypt, I hold to be clearly proved by this. He doesn't know. Maybe, maybe not. The Phoenicians who hold intercourse with Hellas, the Phoenicians who are be more Hellenized because they kind of do more stuff or with the Greeks than those Phoenicians who hang with the Egyptians. Those Phoenicians don't even circumcise their children. So we had this whole rant about circumcision, about the Phoenicians, about the Egyptians, about all these people. This has not told me anything about that the Africans are black. I'm really dumbfounded to understand where are they trying to tell me. He's describing the Colchians and the Egyptians when it comes to color, as we viewed above. Garfield, am I saying something that these people are saying, or can you explain to me what's going on here? Or have I read it properly and you're just looking at it properly for the first time because I've given you a better context?
You read it perfectly fine. I find it very strange, though, that the Colchian argument. And you said you would follow up with a whole Black Athena presentation. The gentleman that wrote that book, he actually didn't have a source, a primary source, and the source that he actually quoted is actually no one can find it. So with Martin Bernal, this is why a lot of people are going to give you pushback, because Martin Bernal in Black Athena, he's talked about how the people in Colchi, there was a claim that the Colchi is a second Ethiopia. That was one of the claims that was made, and no one can find a source that agrees.
There is some truth to that, and if I can mention something here, Herodotus says that he also not also I'm not sure if Herodotus. There are other Greek authors that when they talk about the Ethiopians, not only do they talk about the Ethiopians who are the down at this sunburnt area where Helios's chariot loses control and it comes down, and these people in this particular area of the earth are more darker than others. That's the Greek mythology talk. In this particular area, there's a mark around this southern area, and the southern area he described as Ethiopia was the whole bottom of the earth, meaning not only Africa but also India. So a second India would be also called Ethiopia. You would see sometimes in some maps Ethiopia in India, and this was just a confusion because these people in southern India are as dark, as melancholy as the people who are in Africa, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The earth box. But disregard that. There's no second source. There is a source to a second Ethiopia, and it might be true. Maybe there was an Indian. If you follow this logic, there was a second Ethiopia. Maybe there was an Indian, which seems more likely because the Caucasus, where the Georgia is much more closer to India than it is from Egypt. And we know the Egyptians didn't travel where they weren't. They were scared of water. They didn't conquer past the Levant. They didn't travel. They kind of maintained Egypt for thousands of years, that long that its culture kind of like just became stagnant for so long.
What do you mean by Egyptians didn't like water? That don't sound right. What do you say?
Sorry?
You said they didn't like water?
There's a particular verse that I can find for you, is that the Egyptians were known to be kind of scared of the ocean.
Okay.
They weren't seafarers. When the Egyptians weren't seafarers, they looked to the Phoenicians and the Greeks. I know that people want to claim that the Egyptians went all around the world to the Americas and all these kinds of information. I've heard stories like this, but this is in kind of like and kind of conspiracy theories. And I kind of don't want to go there because I don't want to kind of delve in the unknown and unknowable. I kind of want to say what's truth and what can we know from the sources themselves. And there's no source, but if there was a source for the Ethiopians in India, it's probably more likely that an Indian colony went to the Caucasus. And there was a confusion there with Herodotus. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's making a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I could find a study from someone that actually wrote that in defense of Black Athena. But yeah, we'll do that on another day. But yeah, this particular Herodotus passage, I'm really confused on what people are actually thinking that is going on here. There is absolutely nothing to say Herodotus is talking about. He's describing the Ethiopians are as dark as the Colchians, or the Egyptians are as dark as the Colchians. It does say that. We do see where he writes that the Ethiopians are as dark as these people who are in Colchians. That we can't verify that because he doesn't tell us anything more, just that. And then he goes on a whole rant about circumcision, which has got nothing to do about color. So in both cases, he says, well, there's many people that do this anyway, so it amounts to nothing anyways. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When Herodotus is talking...
As a matter of fact, this argument might actually work in reverse. Because if we look at they have genetic studies of the people that live here. That genetics can tell color. I'm not making that claim. But these people were invaded by a lot of different people, and there's no history or no records to say that these people were of African descent or Egyptian descent. And if they were a part of the Egyptian army, you're now making the claim that the people in the Egyptian army look more like what the population looks like today, which you're now implying that the ancient Egyptians looked, what we would say, Caucasian. That's what you're actually saying in reverse. Because the way I look at it, I'm looking at the studies. I'm looking at what Black Athena wrote. He quoted this guy by the name of let me get his name right. His name is Dimitri Golia, The History of the Abkhazia. It wasn't published in English, but he quoted it. And what happened is he never
What's his name?
Dimitri Golia.
Yeah.
So he wrote about Goliath's heritage in Black Athena, but he never quoted that guy's book as his source in his book, which was kind of strange in his bibliography. But what happened is the gentleman claimed his heritage originated from Sesostris. So he just basically believed what Herodotus said. So it's not like he had proof in his book. His name is Dimitri Golia, History of Abkhazia.
Wow, okay. History of what, sorry?
History of Abkhazia, Abkhazia.
Abkhazia. Okay. Not Greek. I can't look it up.
And the thing is, he never, I mean, even Bernard didn't even claim that the guy proved it. That this is southern Russia. I hope people understand what this is. He's claiming, and by the way, there's a theory regarding this, in that the Persians were trying to say, hey, we conquered here, and so forth. And he was trying to say, hey, the Egyptians did the same thing too. Basically lying to make a point. And this is just pretty much blown out of proportion by us reading it 2,500 years later. Because technically he's having a conversation and he's comparing what the Persians conquered and what they did. And then he said, hey, well, the Egyptians, they're some bad dudes too. They went up to Kalachia and they had their army up there and they have stele, and there's no evidence of this. The Egyptians don't write this. And they're the best. They document everything that they do as far as war. You'll see we brought back 1,000 people. We brought back this, we brought back gold, we brought back women. There's no record to this.
Absolutely.
It's my conclusion right now, and I can be wrong. I'm open for evidence. He made it up. He was just trying to make a point. I think he just made up the whole thing. So we saying that the Egyptians are black based off of this is actually not even, it's just a whole thing that he made up. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, mate. And not only that, it's important that, because I did talk about a little bit about Herodotus before, about we should only take him with a pinch of salt. And what I want to say also is that Herodotus usually says, it is my opinion. I don't know. I heard it from this source. I don't think it's true, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. I'm gonna say something, but you're not obliged to believe me. He says this consistently in his works. You really need to read Herodotus, and that's why I mean we need to take him with a pinch of salt. It's very important, and that's why he's been kind of like criticized sometimes. Like I said, Plutarch criticized him as well. But interestingly enough, this particular verse, I would really want someone to sit here and challenge me with what they see in this verse, because he's describing the Ethiopians with the Phoenicians in regards to circumcision and the Egyptians, but he's in regards to color, he's just talking about the Colchians and the Egyptians being similar in color. So we need to kind of see who were these ancient Colchians that we lived in there that Herodotus noticed that, hey, these kind of are similar to these people from Egypt, and we don't have that, so we can only speculate. And when we do speculate, we jump into an area where it's where anything we can say is anyone's truth, really. So we really need to be very vigorous when we try to make connections like this.
Yeah, one point when you're reading this, it says the Colchians remember the Egyptians better than the Egyptians remember the Colchians.
I've really got something to say about that as well.
Yeah, the Egyptians, he said that they held the Colchians to be part of Sesostris' army. So who told you that? Where did you get that from?
Yeah.
I myself guessed it to be so, partly because they are dark-skinned and woolly-haired. Though that indeed goes for nothing, seeing that he's telling you, though that indeed goes for nothing, he's telling you. You shouldn't even take what I'm saying, anything here. Seeing that other people who are such, but my better proof was that the Colchians and Egyptian and Ethiopians are the only nations that have from first practiced circumcision. Now, this is a problem. Just reading it is carefully. What do you say about the whole woolly hair translation?
Ulotriches. Ulotriches means curly hair. So it just means curly hair, squiggly hair. So someone who has ulotriches is someone who has curly hair, basically. You could say woolly hair. Yeah, I could say woolly hair because sheep do have this curl, this circularity to it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I think we said enough on this. You wanted to add something about the Colchians remembering the Egyptians? You wanted to add something?
Yeah. So it's interesting that, and we'll see this later on, because I see it in Greek literature all the time, is that a lot of people want to cling on to Egypt culture, even in the ancient world, because they viewed it as this type of exotic culture with prestige. So do you see how some of the Egyptians are like, hey, no, we don't really remember them. No, we don't know these people. Oh, but some say Sesostris, but we don't really know them. But the Colchians, on the other hand, they've heard of Egypt. They're like, we're definitely from there. I've seen that in Greek literature heaps of times, and I'm saying to you that it's very interesting because it's like, it's just interesting because I think what I'm reading in that passage is that the Colchians are trying to take the prestige of Egypt by saying, hey, we are from Egyptian, baby, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But we're in Egypt, hey, no, we don't really remember them. But there's a story of some Sesostris and so on. But yeah, that's my little take on that. But yeah. Okay, so I'm going to keep on going now, and we'll go to the next one now, Garfield.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to look at Aristotle. Now, I heard when I seen this video, I heard people saying, hey, you can't get better than Aristotle. Aristotle's the man, you know what I mean? As if like anything Aristotle is like, truth. So that's interesting on many fronts because Aristotle got many things wrong. But at the same time, Aristotle was a genius. Unfortunately, this particular quote that we're looking at, that says, too black a hue marks a coward, has witnessed the Egyptians and Ethiopians. And so does also too white a complexion, as you may see from women. The complexion of courage is between the two. The complexion of the courage is between two extremes. I want to say something about that a little soon. And I want to talk about this passage in more detail. But number one, and this is not to say, this is not that we should take this work for and discredit it for any reason, but I do want to say that it's known as pseudo-Aristotelian. They don't even know who wrote it. It's attributed to them. It's attributed to Aristotle, but we don't know. What we do know is that it was written, I'm pretty sure, sometime in the 3rd and 2nd century BC, and it sounds very Aristotelian. It sounds very Aristotelian, and they're saying that it might have been one of his students, but we don't know who wrote it, but it's known as pseudo-Aristotelian. So I just wanted to let people know about this information before we go further on. And the word that Aristotle uses is melanes, which is the same melankos derivative. It's in plural form as well, melanes. And we're going to go ahead and read the passage. Okay, so to blacker hue marks the coward as witness Egyptians and Ethiopians. Notice here, number one, what I want to show is that he's differentiating two different people. Number one, he's differentiating the Egyptians and the Ethiopians. He considers them as two people. Interestingly enough, and I want to talk about Aristotle's philosophy because it's important understanding his logic and the reason why he's saying with what he's saying. Now, stick with me. We're going to go into a little bit of philosophy for a second. Aristotle understood that virtue is the golden mean between two points, between two excesses. Okay. For example, he thought courage was a great virtue, but he said that if you are not courageous, if you're not virtuous and courageous, you will be deficient. You'll be a coward. But if you're excessively courage, you're in excess. You become recklessness. I'll give you an example if you want. For example, if you want to, people are mugging an old lady, and there might be 4 or 5 of them. You could be a coward and don't do nothing. Aristotle said you will be deficient in doing so. But if you see 3 or 4 people and they're mugging this old lady, and you just jump in by yourself and try to become the hero, and you get killed, well, he would say you will be excess again. You are reckless. So the golden point would be right in the middle, in the center, the point of two extremes, and that is his whole philosophy, based off his own thoughts and opinions at the time. And I want to read this quote for you in full. So, too dark a hue, too melanchro, too dark, too melanated, or you follow me? Too melanated, too melanchroas, too melanes, too dark a hue. All right, but we need to get the understanding how I was speaking it again. Too honey-skinned, meaning that darker, that more. I want people to understand that's the word he's using there, and we know that's a spectrum. We know that melanchroas is a spectrum. Too dark a hue marks the coward, as witness the Egyptians and the Ethiopians. And so also does too white a complexion, as you may see from women. So, his philosophy now, the hue that marks courage must be intermediate in the middle between these extremes. Are you following me, Garfield?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get at, he's using his philosophical thoughts and he's applying it to nature and color. And it's not just about humans. He's not being racist here at all, because he goes on to talk about a tawny color indicates a bold spirit, as in lions, but too ruddy a hue marks as rogue, as in the case of a fox. A pale skin, a left or not hue, signifies cowardice, for that is the color one turns to terror. Do we understand? So what I'm getting from this particular balance is when Aristotle is talking about too dark a hue is non-courageous, as witness the Egyptians, dark, and the Ethiopians, excessively dark. Are we following me?
Mm-hmm.
There is a hue, even within the Egyptians, even with the people that he's speaking about. And he's using his own understanding of his concepts of the golden mean, in particular this particular passage. So in this passage here, I don't see how Aristotle himself is telling us that the Ethiopians and the Egyptians are the same people. Or I don't see that. He's being philosophical about it, and he's giving you his thought based on his color. He wants everything. He thinks that Greece is at that golden lock zone where it's not too high and it's not too low. It's in that perfect golden mean. Are you following me? This is his understanding.
Yes, I understand that fully. Mm-hmm.
And so in this passage, he's talking about two different people. He's talking about two different nations. He's applying that that rule of the golden mean, how he excessively goes in steps. And I just wanted to show you here down the bottom how in skin color as well, you can see it becoming melanchro and melantotos, becoming much darker as it goes. It's the way that melanchros works, because as we kind of understood before, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum.
I got a question. The word in Aristotle is melanchros.
It is melanes. It is a form of melanchros. Yes.
Oh, okay. So is it? So when you use melanes, what does that mean? Does it change the meaning of its use? Okay.
Yeah, so basically, melanes is just dark. Melanechro is dark colored, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just another word on top of melanes. And melachros is more usually described when we're talking about skin color. Melanes can be used for, basically, we could use this for figuratively for even like things that are dark, as in different types of rocks and different types of rocks.
Number two said melanes was could mean evil or something like that, right? When he was breaking out melan, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
No,
yeah, melanis. Yeah,
in
yeah.
this case, it's figuratively.
Yeah. He's also applying it. He's applying it figuratively because he's not applying it to skin color. He's actually applying it to his philosophical thoughts in regards to color as a scientific inquiry into his investigation. But he could have used melanchros or melanes. These words do not have any type. I've showed before how melas, the word, can change and mean different. It can change, but still mean the same thing. We're just using it in different types of numitive, genderless, or whatever, how we can use the particular word. If that makes sense. I'm not sure if I've explained that properly, but yeah. Do you have any other questions? Sorry, Garfield. Do you have any other questions?
No, not regarding this. The bottom line is, though, this is from pseudo-Aristotle. It's not even from Aristotle. It's the first thing.
Yeah. It's not from Aristotle. Again, the word I'm just going to show you is melanes. It's being translated here as swarthy. It can be translated as black. I've seen it translated as dark. Again, it's the same kind of words. I've told you a better way to look at it is look at it, apply it as honey skin, because we know that melis and melas root are likely entangled with one another in root. So melis and melanes, these words are rooted within each other. They've got the prefix mel there. So we know what we're talking about. And we know that melan can change to melanchros, to melanes, to melantotos. We know these words can kind of change. But we're talking about this type of hue in this darkness. It's not an absolute black.
Hey, I asked you to do me a big favor. Big favor.
Talk to me, my bro.
I'm gonna keep your slides where you are. I'm gonna show you something on the screen, right? And I want you to help me out. This might actually help us out with this conversation. If we look at this is the primary source, right? Notice at the bottom right here, it says those whose eyes are excessively black are cowardly. Now, if you look on the left-hand side, what word is he using for black here? I can't. This is over this side. I don't know if I can.
I can't see what you're looking at, Garfield. I'm looking at my particular passage from Aristotle at the moment.
All right, hold on. Let me. All right. So on the screen. All right. Pull yours down for a second. Just pull it down for a second. Just pull it down. All right. Stop sharing. I'm sorry. Stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
Let's stop sharing for a second. But this might help us both out for to understand this even better.
All right, sorry, stop screen.
All right, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
All right, do I need to make this a little bigger for you?
Yeah.
All right, if you look at the bottom right here, it says those whose eyes are excessively black are cowardly. For it was shown above that an excessively black color signifies cowardice.
Yeah, I can see it, mate. And there's two words black that are there. There's melanes and villi, I can see. Villi also can mean, I can't read it very good. Agan melanes. Yes, I can see it, Garfield.
Okay.
So, yes, so Agan melanes, villi igar agan melani, kroa. So yeah, there's the words, if you can see there's melanes, and if you look down the bottom, the first word on the left-hand side is melani, like the word melanie. And you see the word next to it, chroa, colored or hued. So yes, there is both words are being used to explain dark in that particular passage.
So melanes is also being used here, but in the passage, in the original passage here, it's the same word they're using. Am I correct?
Highlight it for me so I know where. Yes, that's correct, mate. Yes, that's correct.
So they said those who are too swarthy, they're using melanes, and then
yes,
here on the next page, they're using the same word melanes to mean black.
Yeah, they've changed the word to mean black there. But you can play with it however you want, right?
Right.
You're the translator. You could, yeah, absolutely.
Wow. You see, that's where the confusion is now, because now they're gonna. The pushback is so why didn't they say swarthy here, or why didn't they say dark skin?
Yeah.
But it does say excessively though, so that's kind of changing because they use an adjective or an adverb, whatever it is, to say excessively dark, or it could be dark too. It doesn't matter. I see what you're saying though, but they're purposely pointing it out. If you have excessively black eyes, you are cowardly.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it according to Aristotle. If you have excessively dark, he's not using black. He's using if you have excessively melancro. So you're looking at melanated in that spectrum in the excessive state. So we're looking at those, maybe those three or last spectrum. If you know what I'm saying, Garfield.
All right, cool. So you could bring back your screen back up.
All right, my brother.
But that's going to be the pushback on that. So they're using the same word here. But I'm glad you're pointing out that they're using melanis and they're using melancros and different words, form of that.
So when you look at the excessive part here on this balance screen, the middle point is the balance part. Anything beyond that balance part in the gray areas to the most darkest, those would be all in a state of excess. So when Aristotle is saying, Gan melanes, too dark a hue marks the coward, as witness the Egyptians and Ethiopians, he's actually look at these two nations. They're kind of dark. The Egyptians we know are dark, and the Ethiopians, they're dark too. But he knows that when we look, he has an understanding in his mind that people understand when he's talking about the Egyptians and the Ethiopians, he's talking about two different people with two different values of darkness, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's how I would read that, mate. There's no other way. He's not saying that the Egyptians and Ethiopians are the same people here. I can't read that into the text. But he's pointing out there are two nations who, to him, are excessively dark. I don't really like to admit, but at this point, Garfield, I'm going to have to say that when he's talking about the Egyptians, he's saying that these people are dark, and he's also saying that the Ethiopians are dark as well, and he's putting them on the category that they're in that excessively darkness, and that women who are white because they stay in the house all day and do all the housework, well, they're pale white, and he's saying, well, that's excessively white, these women. But I'm sure these women won't monotone, is absolute white. I'm sure there was a skin tone amongst them as well. But what I'm trying to get at here, he's talking about two people, two different nations, and we don't know if he's making these nations as if they as one, and it doesn't. We'll be reading that into it because he's basically telling us the Egyptians and the Ethiopians that these people here are excessively dark. So to what extremes, we would only speculate at this point.
But it's very interesting. You just brought up a very good point. You just said that because remember, it's one complete sentence. You have a subject, you have a predicate. So at the beginning of the sentence, you said, if your too dark a hue marks the coward, comma, as witness Egyptians and Ethiopians, which became the central part of the entire sentence. And he said, and so does also too white a complexion, as you may see from women. From which women? You're talking about Egyptians and Ethiopians.
Possibly, he could be talking about the same people. I was trying to get that point across. I'm not sure if I try to make it, but at the same time, Garfield, the point that you just raised does make sense. But to look at this passage and say that the Egyptians and the Ethiopians are the same people, are Black Africans, no, we're reading too much into it. It doesn't say that. I was trying to give you that philosophical understanding with Aristotle's philosophy in regards to that middle point, so you can understand there is an excessiveness in color as well. So it's not just that one absolute black, the Egyptians and the Ethiopians. No, there is a hue for the Egyptians and there's a hue for the Ethiopians. And for Aristotle, they're both too excessive. They're not in that middle point where he wants them to be. If that makes sense. Yes. Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next.
So let's go to the next point. Okay, yep. Trying to get there. Okay, so I took this one off and copy and pasted it of one of the videos that I've seen, and again, what we get here is Mongol Ethiopians, so like half castes. But I'm going to read you the passage. We engaged in an Egypt.
All right, family. I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna move on to week 3. This is week 2, and we're gonna move on to week 3 next week. We'll continue from here for another hour, and then we're gonna have the week after that, week 4. All right. Whether we agree or disagree, go back, watch it, make your notes, and just chill. I mean, if you want to say the Egyptians are black, live with yourself. That's fine. He's just breaking down the Greek. I don't speak Greek. I don't know anybody that speaks Greek. The only person I know who is an African American who was the best in academia was Frank Snowden Jr. And he said that the Egyptians weren't black based off of his expertise on Greek, ancient Greek. So I just rock with the experts. Some people are gonna agree, some people are gonna disagree. But he's going into the language. Go back, rewatch, and then make your notes and come back. All right. Peace and love to everybody. Have a beautiful evening, and thanks for tuning in. All right. Peace.